right, welcome everyone to another episode of Vinny Presents. And today I got two great guests coming at you. We have award-winning screenwriter and SAG actor, the amazing Frank Mancuso. Frankie's here, as well as the best of the Bronx right here, author Rocco Trombetta. How are you, gentlemen, and good morning?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Doing great. I'm privileged to have you guys. I'm excited about this interview. We've been talking about it. We have some good stuff to talk to the guests about. So please, everyone, make sure you stay put, subscribe, make sure you're following these guys on social media. Most importantly, let's talk a little bit about you guys. We'll start with Frank. Give us a little background, Frank.
Well, as you know, I'm a screenwriter. I've written 16 screenplays. I had two produced already, which you know about. We just finished Lenore. It's in post-production. And also Anemone is now currently on Amazon Prime. And I'm currently working on two screenplays. One I can't tell you about. It's a special project. And another one I'm currently working with your other guest, Rocco Trombetta. I am basically doing an adaptation from his book called There Once Was a Melody in the Bronx. And I'm looking forward to completing this and hopefully it gets picked up.
Awesome. And Rocco, how about yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I grew up in the neighborhood on Arthur Avenue in the Bronx, the Belmont district of the Bronx. And years ago, I basically wrote this thing over here. See this? This is the original right over here, guys. If you could see this, this is what it looked like originally. Frank, you didn't want to. You didn't want
No, no, I didn't want that one.
You didn't want this one. Trust me, you didn't want. I didn't want it either. As a matter of fact, just to kind of get into it a little bit, this is what was buried in my basement, and the whole thing started about a year or so ago, where my son was watching the movie The Bronx Tale with a friend of his, and I passed by them as they were watching the film, and I said, "Hey, that's my story." And they say, "That's not your story." I said, "Of course, it's not my story, but it's a story that everyone basically, can affiliate with, and so therefore." And then my son said something along the lines of, "Did you write something, Dad, a long time ago? You told me about the Bronx." I said, "Yes, I did." Long story short, I went downstairs in the basement to find this thing here, which took me so damn long to find. And I finally did. And when I did, I threw it on their lap, and they said, "That's not a book." And I looked at him and I said, "You're right. It's not a book, but it's going to be a book." And lo and behold, it became a book. And there's the story.
That's excellent. Rocco, it's listen, I dug into this book. It's something we can all identify growing up in the neighborhood, whether you were from the Bronx or whether you're from Philly or wherever. And it's loaded with delightful characters that you can definitely kind of sympathize, empathize with. Now, going back to Frank. Frank, how did this kind of partnership evolve?
Basically, Rocco had met or got in touch with Joe Cirillo, who's another person that one day I got to hook you up that I keep telling you about. He was the one that was in Ghostbusters. He's the one that I worked for as my employer, where I worked for celebrities, for people like Sinatra and Pacino and stuff like that. And Joe called me up and said, "Hey, I'm going to meet this gentleman who has a great book, and he's looking for some writers." So we met in Long Island, and Rocco basically introduced himself, and he each gave us a book, and said, "Let me know what you guys, as professional writers, what do you think?" I took it home and I basically read it in an hour and a half, and I was like, "I love this story." And I told him that, and I said, "I could definitely see this being made into a movie." And then we just kept talking, and I finally decided that I was going to go with it. So that's where we are. So I'm already into, I believe, up to 39 pages already.
And of course,
fantastic. And Rocco, so you wrote this a while ago. You took notes. We're seeing the copybook now. So it took you a while to get it from, I'm sure, from your mind to pen and paper, and now to the next step. Rocco, tell us now, how did you get it from just a bunch of bulk papers and rough drafts to where it is now?
Yeah, how did I do it? Well, as I say in the acknowledgments in the beginning of the book, And it's the truth. It is the truth. When Chaz Palminteri was shooting his film The Bronx Tale back in the early '90s, my godson, who his name, he had a part in the film called, his part was Aldo. Long story short, once in a blue moon, I take him to the set. And I just was inspired. And this was in Queens, by the way, Frank, where you come from, right? In Queens. Yep. And I take him.
They couldn't shoot up there in the Bronx.
They didn't want to shoot it. No. They didn't want to shoot it in the Bronx. So anyway, I was basically enlightened by the whole thing. Whatever. I mean, I said, wow. I said, you know, this is a story about a guy. Of course, you know, he used to tell me what was it about. Growing up in the Bronx, and I have my own story. So I used to like to write, still do, I guess, but I started to literally put thoughts. I mean, this is long, as you can see, this is a whole binder, literally a whole binder. And just, I wrote till literally I had carpal syndrome over here. Literally, my arm used to hurt so much back then. That's why today there's no excuse. If someone does have a story, if someone does, today's technology is so easy. I mean, easy in the sense of back 30 years ago, which is when I started this thing, Vin, about, I want to say, yeah, again, the early to mid 90s is where I started, you know, writing it. And I just like, when it was done, I said, okay, I did something, okay, and I put it away. And like I said, the story of my, you know, my kid, and it was almost kind of like a little dig, if you will, you know, like, you know, to me, it was this was a personal thing that I heard in my own head. I said, when are you going to finish it? When are you going to, you know, finally do this? So I guess even to show my own son, you know, that this can be done, you know what I mean? I had to do it. I had to sit there from last year, I would say around this time, maybe a little earlier than this time, June, I believe it was, is when I started. And sat here right where I am many nights and weekends, and what I shot him right away. I said, you know Godzilla, you know this guy, you know that guy. Oh my God. He said, yeah. The man was unbelievable, Mr. Cirillo. I know you're going to be watching this one day. Thank you so much, you know, for just being the person that you are. Good man, an excellent human being. And he didn't read the book actually at first. He read literally like a manuscript type of thing I sent him. But he said to me, he goes, before you send it over to me, make sure that you copyright it. And I was like, but I trust you, Mr. Cirillo. You sound like, I said, no.
Don't trust anybody. That's rule number one.
Don't trust anybody. He says, I first did it. Once you do that, then you could send it to me. And of course, he tells me the story about, you know, Frank, his story about the night at the museum, which apparently that was originally his. And
yep.
And you know, and we know what happened with that. But anyway, and from there, Frank was introduced to us because obviously Mr. Cirillo knew him, and that he was an award-winning screenwriter, and so on and so forth. I
learned something too, that there's always a time and a place, whether it's a day, whether it's 30 years, there's always a time and a place for something to come to fruition.
Bingo.
So you never knock it because it's got a time and a place, and you made obviously these connections with these gentlemen and people that'll be part of it. And I'm sure, because in my gut instinct, this thing's going to be big, and you're going to have a wide range of people that are going to just come and be a part of this. Frank, what's your favorite thing about this story? Is there something sentimental about it? What really drove you to want to be a part of it?
Well, one of the things I liked was, you know, especially what I think what we all relate to is basically the Italian culture of the neighborhoods, how we grew up, and you know, coming to America as an immigrant, and then, you know, the whole thing. But what I loved was the stories of the characters that were involved. You know, like I said, here you just had a guy who had a natural voice, natural talent to sing, you know, this kid, and yet the characters that are around him, you know, of what they could do for you or what they can't do for you. But because of the nature of the characters and how everything turned out, I just was really, I wanted to see the characters, and I wanted to get into it more to show the complexity of the different type of characters, what Rocco wrote, especially, what we call the neighborhood guys. And those were the certain people, but yet those certain people, started part of this career for Rocco, in the beginning, but yet you still have his mother and his family. So there's a little bit of conflict of, wanting to be with them, not wanting to be with them. And then things that come out when you find out the truth about the whole story, with him singing with Joe Pesci. So it was a whole complexity of different things that I was like, wow. I mean, I said, I could really see this on screen. So when I read the book, I kept visually seeing it. And I'm saying, oh my God, we could do this. I could do this, and I could put this scene in. So it was just a thought process of how I write as well, because I'm one of those guys that just closes your eyes and I see a scene moving through my head. And that's exactly what grabbed me, because sometimes, when you read stories, if it doesn't grab me, if I can't see it visually, then it's hard for me to create as a writer to bring that in. Is there a little bit of embellishment? Of course. I mean, that's what screenwriters do to, make the characters likable, and then also give the protagonist, the little conflict to cause a little problem of what, truth and stuff, what's going on. But that's some of the things that I liked about it. And then again, being, a New Yorker myself, and, having worked in the Bronx myself for 5 years, you kind of see and understood Rocco's story, of the complexity of him coming there as an immigrant with his mom and everything else, and then dealing with certain people from the neighborhood, but yet how everything was kind of like close knit. But yet then when you went outside the borders, how, it was a whole different world. So you have to take those blinders off and kind of create the whole thing. And that's one of the things that I really liked about the whole truthfulness of the story.
Excellent. And you touched upon Joe Pesci. Rocco, can you tell us a little bit about your interactions, I guess you might say, with Joe Pesci?
Well, again, basically back in the day, talking about, late 70s, I was a kid literally in the neighborhood. Everyone had a job. Who worked in the fruit stand, who shined shoes, who worked in a bakery, who did this and that, whatever. My job, literally, what I did was I went around singing a few songs for people, and I'd get a tip for it, whatever. I happened to be in Gino's pastry shop, the infamous Gino's on 187th Street, and the old man who's passed away a long time ago, Gino himself, the dad, literally brought me into this restaurant and said, this kid could sing, in his Italian accent. Questa sabaganda. I said, okay. He brought me in there. Here I am singing in front of these guys, these fellas, and they took a liking to me. There was Joe Pesci right there, and he took a liking to me, took me under his wing, along with Mr. Godzilli, God rest his soul, him too, who happened to be also a paisan of my family, actually, comes from the same town in Italy called Solofra. Anyway, Pesci and I spent a lot of time together. He literally taught me how to sing. He taught me technique. I remember his words too, because, you got talent, but you ain't got technique. I didn't know what that meant back then. All I knew is, okay, I don't have technique. And he taught me technique. And I still at times today when I'm in the shower singing, I still use that technique. Then in here I was with this guy. I didn't know who he was at the time. It was just a nice guy, treated me with total respect. We would go around in the restaurant. He played guitar because he was a really great guitarist. And I'd pick up a plate and sing a song, and boom, next thing you know, I got a 20 spot in my hand. We're talking about 1978, 79. And quite a lot of cash for $20 for singing a song. And yeah, he really, I have to say, he really did respect me a lot. We spent a lot of good days together, and evenings, of course. And the next thing the true story is, again, I was taken out of that scene, that atmosphere and whatnot. And a year later, literally a year later, he was on the silver screen with the Raging Bull, and I was like, wow. I went down, and then I never really heard from him again. But then later on in life, we managed to talk again briefly, but we did communicate. And one part is in the book, I believe, towards the end, which has to do with a song that he taught me. He actually taught me a song that he wrote. This is his song. Incidentally, that he had something to do with the Four Seasons and whatnot. Like, people don't know this stuff, that he actually wanted to be a singer. He really didn't want to be an actor. He wanted to be a singer, and he was good. He was very good, as I recall.
But he found his niche.
He found his niche. Well, they found him, whatever, and and lo and behold, the song that he wrote that song, and fast forward to maybe about 8-9 years ago, friend of mine knew him, saw him at a restaurant in Jersey, something like that. I knew he was going to probably see him again, so I wrote the song that he taught me, and gave it to my friend, and he gave it to him, because he had seen him again at this restaurant, and he read the letter, I guess, but it was a song, and he said to the guy, he goes, "Who gave you this?" He said, "That guy at the bar." "Oh, really?" He's telling this guy at the bar to come over here right now. So here he is. My friend's calling me, "Dude, I'm sitting down with Joe Pesci." I'm like, you didn't believe me then that I knew him, huh? That I had my. So no, I believed you. Okay, never mind. What did he say? What? So man, he opened up the envelope, started reading this thing that you gave him. He didn't even know what it was, and it was the song that I learned from him, and it was something that only I would know, and obviously he would know, because there was no other way. The song never became a hit or anything like that. You know what I mean? It was just something that he had written at the time, and he taught me only. I added in the book at least a snippet of it, just one little paragraph, which you'll get to, Frank. That's towards the end, as you recall, also reading the book, perhaps. But anyway, yeah, that was my way of kind of inserting, a little personable thing of him and I.
Hey, it's like, hey, do you remember me?
Well, that's true with a lot of people that it's sometimes, you get to a level and you have to kind of leave some of the past behind. But, some people don't forget where they come from. And it's always nice to hear you kind of get to relive some of the nostalgia. But I can identify with what you're talking about. And I saw a little glimpse of it in the 80s, maybe 90s, really. Yeah, probably more into the 90s, because I was always in the food industry. I grew up working in little, South Philly Italian restaurants, and then I moved into hotels and different, higher end businesses. But in the neighborhoods, brother, when those guys were around, yeah, 20s, 50s, hundreds were flying around. Nobody tipped like those guys, and you know what? They never will.
I remember I used to be as a kid, 12, did once in a while, apart from singing and doing a little bussing, and once in a while, I'd have to go and pick up some espresso somewhere. They wouldn't drink their own espresso from the restaurant. They had to go get it across the street at what we used to call the Geep Shop. All right, we could say that because the Geep Shop. And I'd go over there. He'd open up his wad, the guy, and literally hundreds stacked in his head. And I'd be looking at him, but who did he get this? Where would he get this money? He'd give me $100 bill to go across the street and pick up, I don't know, maybe 10 espressos, and bring him back. I'd go there with the $100 bill to the guy. He goes, "You got anything small?" He goes, "This is what he gave me." Yeah.
Those were the days. Now, Frank, is there anything that I guess that's different about this story than maybe some of the other stories you worked on? Anything maybe unique or that's really near and dear to you about it?
Well, like I said, most of the other stories that I write are pretty much crime, crime thrillers, sci-fi. The only one that would be similar would be personal was something I wrote about my father, which is No Scordata de Me. which means don't forget me in Italian. So it's like family orientated to where it's a personal thing of struggle and sense of growing up, my father in Italy. But this was because of the I guess the Italian culture, and since all three of us are Italians and we all kind of are older to understand, growing up in the 70s and 80s, I kind of relate a lot of to that, especially watching a lot of the movies. And then also like Rocco says, we all kind of know those people. So it's kind of like realistic in the sense of for us culturally that we, know both sides. And to me, having his story, having an in-depth close-up, to me is what grabbed me. Because, I mean, you're looking at a guy, like I said, here was a story about Joe Pesci before he was who he was and everything that he was doing. And then, getting sucked into that kind of life, and of course, your parents, your mom, and everybody else concerned of, getting dragged into that. So there was the conflict, and I was like, to me, it's like that's what really attracted me. So, for me, this was one of the magnetisms that drew me to the story, because I wanted to be able to show that, of what he was doing. And for him, it was just a goal of just trying to become, a singer and to become somebody, and then sometimes things don't always work out the way you want in life, but that's part of the struggle of life, and that's, to me, that's part of the whole intricacies of what grabbed me to the story. And I like that.
It's definite that this has all the elements of a great story. I can't wait to see it on the big screen. I think you guys make a terrific combination. And I want to say it again. Here it is in case anybody is out there, and let's get it in there. All right. So again, There Once Was a Melody in the Bronx, A Tale of Immigrant Dreams by Rocco Trombetta.
Basically, you can follow me at on Instagram at the Calabrian Kid. This way, you'll see everything that's going on. I post all the pictures of my productions, my screenplays, and everything else. And I look forward to coming back one day when we're completed and basically say, we got good news for you. We signed, and it's going to be made into a movie.
Can't wait to hear those words.
Yes.
How about yourself, Rocco? Any last words for the viewers?
Yeah, well, this is Frank's, this is what he's working on. And we have, like I said, I don't know, 40 something pages, maybe a little bit more than that. If I may, Vin, you can find this on Amazon, right? You can find this on Amazon. There Once Was a Melody in the Bronx. Where could you find me? You'll find me on Arthur Avenue, someplace somewhere, having a demi-tasse somewhere on Arthur Avenue. That's where you find me. Thank you, Vince, for this opportunity, and I want to thank God for this relationship, because honestly, I really truly feel that Frank, along with Mr. Cirillo, this is a gut feeling that I get right here all the time. It was not a mistake. It was all meant to be. Wherever it
Absolutely, yes.
I don't care where it takes us. Hopefully it takes us to what Frank said, a conclusion of a film. If it doesn't, you know what? I met a great guy. And you too, Vin.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate that. And you guys are wonderful. Really, I mean, you guys are really awesome. It's been a blessing. Frank, thank you for obviously introducing me to Rocco. And you guys are just, I think you're headed in for bigger and more amazing things. I think this thing has got tremendous potential. And frankly, I can't wait for the premiere.
All right, baby.
Definitely you're invited. Front seat.
All right. Count me in. So again, folks, if you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to me. Make sure you're following Rocco and Frankie here. These guys are awesome. Keep an eye and watch out for more from what's going on in the Bronx. There's Once a Melody in the Bronx. Pick it up on Amazon. You won't regret it. It's a great story, and it's a fast read. Guys, again, my guests have been Frank Mancuso and Rocco Trombetta. Again, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.